What is going on, guys? It's Storm1092 here and bringing you the first actual episode of Mail Call. Last week's episode was just a little pilot to get some questions in, but we got a few of them, so let's go answer those. First one comes from Charles Fury, and why don't you play on PC? Well, I actually use quite an old PC, but I do have a few games on it like that I can run. I just got into playing League of Legends a little bit. I'm not really too into it, but it's a fun game to change it up from just console gaming every once in a while. I also play Soldier Front, which I played a lot back a few years ago, probably 5 years ago. It's an old game, but it's still fun. It's just a first-person shooter. I'm sure you might have heard of it, but they just came out with a Soldier Front 2, so that's the newest big thing in that game. I also play Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, the original one, which is actually pretty fun because that is like pure strategy. It's just, I mean, it kind of Socom strategy, but it's actually more realistic and kind of sucks that it's only crosshairs, but it's still fun. I also play the original Planet side a little bit. I mean, I'm not too into it because the player count just isn't there anymore. I also got Angry Birds on my computer, and I also have the original Halo. And I play that every so often just to get, you know, go back to the old school for a little while. But I actually hooked up my Sony DualShock 3 for Halo, and it's kind of funny because I'm playing Halo with a 6-axis controller. It's pretty fun. But let's get to the next one from Hadley Tom 88. Have you ever played the Army Men series on PS1 or PS2? It's an Army RTS, Army Men Land, Sea, Air, or Army Men Sages of War. I have not played any of the Army Men series on PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2. I really never got, I guess, into Army Men. I don't really know what it is. I'm guessing the old plastic Army Men. That's what I'm guessing. But for PS1, it was really mostly Twisted Metal 3 and the original Metal Gear Solid I played quite a bit. And for PS2, it was all about the Socoms, and I played Conflict Desert Storm a lot, and loved the Need for Speed Underground 2 game. That was my game online for the longest time. Played it every night religiously until Socom. So Socom was the big online shooter, but Underground 2 was my racer, that is for sure. I also liked the old Call of Duties on the PlayStation 2. Them were pretty good too. But I have not played the Army Men. I might have to look into those just to see what they are. Alright, let's go to the next one. Is Luke Baker. What is your religion? I grew up going to multiple churches when I was young. I mean, 5 years old. I didn't know what it was. But I stopped going probably when I was like 6 or 7 because I just really wasn't into it. I wasn't very comfortable around that many people. And he also has another question, where are you from? I'm from the United States, and that's all I'm giving out, because I don't want you knocking on my front door. My favorite game of all time. Now this is a tough one. I would have to say it's between Combined Assault and Need for Speed Underground 2, because Need for Speed Underground 2 was about the time I really started getting into cars, and that's a whole nother story. But if you want to know, leave a question about it. The customizability on the game was just amazing, and the story mode is pretty fun, and it's just open world racer. And there was one map, I remember the name of it, was called Bella Vista. It was a racetrack, and you'd go up to like a corner where the arrows are blocking the road, and you could actually glitch out of the race track, and you could go free roam as long as you want. Like, you would never finish the race. And I remember it always used to rain at like 7 minutes or something, like on the tee. That was a very fun game online. I remember you could only have 4 players at once, and I remember I was in this RWDK, Rear Wheel Drift Kings, and we used to actually drift online on that game all the time. We made our own little tracks and everything, and we'd get another, I guess, drift club in with us, because that was the big thing in that game, was drifting, because that's when, like, I think Tokyo Drift came out, the Fast and Furious, and I just had a lot of fun. We would get 2 other guys in there because you can only have 4 in a room, and it'd be us against them, and we would judge each other just for fun. You know, it wasn't like Gran Turismo where it was actually like points or anything like that. Well, you could really tandem drift very well in that game, and it was just really fun. And then also Combined Assault, I cannot believe. Like, I remember I used to be part of the Goonies, I think it was TGS their tag was, and man, did I play the heck out of that game. I really didn't get into online shooters until I was probably Socom 3. Socom 3 really started getting me into shooters. But I did play Socom 1 and 2 online quite a bit also, but not nearly as much as 3 and Combined Assault. So, I mean, Combined Assault was just... It was Socom 3, but it was just more maps. Like, the best maps I've ever seen were on them games. But then again, a lot of them came from Socom 2 and Socom 1, so... Kinda... I don't know. I love all Socoms, that's all that matters. Alright, the next question comes from Shafin Kareem. Are you going to play Metal Gear Solid 5? Is that one even out yet? I think that's the new one. I probably will eventually, but that new Fox engine they got just absolutely turns me off. It just doesn't look like a Metal Gear Solid. I honestly think it looks worse than Metal Gear Solid 4. Metal Gear Solid 4 is a beautiful game and just massive. It took me like 18 hours to beat it. Now, with Metal Gear Solid 5 being cross-platform, I don't think that if does it come out on, I think it comes out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox, what is it, One now? Xbox One? I get confused with the name. I keep wanting to call it Xbox 720. But Metal Gear Solid 5, I probably will play it eventually when I get PlayStation 4, but I just to be able to play it, I'm not going to sit there and like play through multiple times probably, because it just doesn't capture me like Metal Gear Solid 4 does. Like Metal Gear Solid 4, I had that pre-ordered and freaking paid for by the time it came out, and I really liked that game. I played through it a couple times, and then the online play just didn't hold for me because of all that Kojima crap. I don't know what they were pulling there, but it was like you're browsing a website just to get into a game. And then next question is from Patrick Sisson, S-I-S-O-N. And it says, I myself love and miss the Socom series. That being said, do you think H-Hour will be a good representation of Socom? I think it will be a pretty close representation, but it's not going to be a Socom. I mean, I think it'll hold us over until maybe Sony gets off their butt and makes a new one, but I'm not too sure if they're going to be doing that. But it is, I think, going to be a pretty good representation. I mean, I've looked at the screenshots of it, and I've been following the Kickstarter very closely and everything, and it does look like a third-person shooter that's it's going to be a pretty good game. But I don't think it's going to be a Socom quite. I mean, I'll probably still enjoy it because it will be that Socom feel, but like there's going to be different graphics, and I mean, look at the difference from Command Assault Confrontation. I mean, a lot of people didn't like that jump. A lot of people didn't like the jump from Socom 2 and Socom 3 because I think some of the people in the Socom community are very picky. But see, I'm up for anything that's even close to a Socom now. And then he also asked another question. Also when people talking about Socom, do you think Socom 1 and Socom 2 as real Socom titles with the others being omitted? I never understood that. Do you have your opinions as to why this is the case? I really think it's whatever you started on, because like, I mean, for example, everyone knows the Call of Duty series. They always say which one you started on is your favorite. But see, I started on Socom 3 heavily. I played Socom 1 and 2 a lot. I just never really got into it to the point where I was like in clans and everything. I played it every day. Don't get me wrong. I played Socom 1 and 2 every day. I just didn't really get into it until I got a little bit older and understood it a little more. But I'm only 20 years old right now, so I was pretty young when the first one came out. But Socom 1 and Socom 2, it's like Socom 1 is actually quite a bit different than Socom 2. That was a big difference. But see, Socom 2 and Socom 3 are a big difference because of the vehicles, because of the bigger map, the bigger player count, respawn, all this stuff. I think more people think that it's more towards a respawn game. I like respawn, but I also like a mixture between ranked and respawn. I mean, if I'm warming up, I'll play Respawn, and if I'm actually like serious and with if I'm with some friends, I'll play you know, ranked games. But I think the whole SOCOM 1, 2 versus 3 in Combined Assault thing is kind of BS. I mean, I think Confrontation's even closer to SOCOM 2 than it is Combined Assault number 3 because the speed isn't there, but it's like there's no weapons. I think it's got some pretty good maps in it. I mean, it took all the big classic maps like Desert Glory and Crossroads, and they made Crossroads bigger just to get the bigger player count because 32 players on small Crossroads just sucks. And it's such a vague argument. Like I think it's just because mostly because of the vehicles, but it's like you don't have to play the vehicles in the map. Like you can play the smaller maps and you won't have vehicles, and it's the same experience, it's the same gun feel, everything. It just, I mean, the sounds and graphics are a little bit different, but I love the graphics of SOCOM 2, SOCOM 3 and Combined Assault. I don't know, but it's, I think it's silly. I never understood it either, to be honest. But those are my opinions. But that's all the questions we got this week, but if you want to hear more about certain things, and just leave a comment below asking some questions, and we'll answer those for you. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Seals victorious.